in the 13th century. A nomadic army erupted from the steppes of Mongolia and reshaped world history in less than a lifetime. They didn't do it just with cavalry, or archery, or numbers. They did it with fear. Genghis Khan, born Temujin in 1162, built one of the largest land empires in history. But behind the speed of his conquests was a strategic weapon: psychological warfare. They learned to break cities before battles even began, to make entire nations surrender without resistance, and to spread their reputation faster than their armies could move. The Mongols didn't just defeat enemies, they made enemies defeat themselves. And in 1220, they proved it in Central Asia, too. The wealthy Khwarezmian Empire, stretching from Persia to modern Uzbekistan, collapsed in just 2 years, not only because of battle, but because fear tore it apart from within. The Mongols understood something generals still study today: once imagination is captured, resistance becomes impossible. Genghis Khan unified the Mongol tribes by 1206. From then on, he launched campaigns that reached from China to Eastern Europe. One of the keys to Mongol strategy was the deliberate creation of reputation. They allowed survivors to flee after battles, not by accident, but by design. Those survivors carried stories often exaggerated of swift cavalry, unstoppable armies, and cities destroyed in days. News traveled faster than armies, and fear traveled faster than news. When the Mongols reached the Khwarezmian city of Ottara in 1219, a massacre of Mongol merchants triggered total war. The Mongols responded with precision. They conducted coordinated attacks, cutting supply lines, isolating cities, and spreading accurate information about their victories. Their siege tactics were advanced. They adopted engineers and siegecraft from China, allowing them to break fortified cities that once felt safe. When cities resisted, they faced harsh consequences. When cities surrendered, they were often spared. This pattern created incentives and fear-based decision-making. Leaders now faced a dilemma: resist and risk destruction, or surrender and survive. During the invasion of Persia, cities began surrendering without battle. Some did so because they heard what happened to cities that resisted. Others because they believed resistance was mathematically pointless. Another tactic was deception. The Mongols staged retreats, faked troop numbers, and used scouts to feed false rumors to enemy commanders. In 1221, at the Battle of the Indus against the Khwarezmian prince Jalal ad-Din, the Mongols used rapid mobility to create the appearance of endless reinforcements. The enemy fled, not because they were outnumbered, but because they believed they were. In Eastern Europe, this tactic worked again. When Bato Khan invaded Hungary and Poland in 1241, rumors of unstoppable armies spread months before the Mongols arrived. Some cities evacuated, some nobles fled. Armies hesitated instead of uniting. The Mongols were feared not only for their victories, but for their invisibility. They seemed everywhere at once, unpredictable, fast, and unstoppable. The Mongols created an empire that stretched from the Pacific to Eastern Europe, the largest contiguous land empire in world history. But they didn't win every battle. And they weren't always the largest army. Their greatest asset was psychological impact. Fear shaped decision-making long before swords crossed. Rulers made choices based not on reality, but perception. Some negotiated before the first arrow was fired. Some fled. Some executed their own leaders to avoid Mongol punishment. Historians still debate the balance between strategy and brutality. But one fact is clear: the Mongols used information as a weapon. They controlled narrative, they managed reputation, and they understood that belief is stronger than force. By the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire fractured into smaller khanates, yet their methods shaped global history. Modern military doctrine still studies their campaigns: mobility, intelligence, discipline, but especially psychological operations. The irony is that one of the most feared forces in history did not rely solely on fear. They relied on understanding human behavior. They proved that wars are often decided before battles begin, not on fields, but in minds, and that the most powerful weapon in history is belief.